Good day, YouTube. It is the 7th of April, 2019. And today's task is to get the steering column out of my 1967 Boyertown Stepvan. I have never pulled a steering gear out of anything like this truck. This is somewhere between a 1 ton or a ton and a half. And it's a forward steering. This is what they call a P400 chassis, not an E400 or not an E350, which would be like a 1-ton dually. This is a P400, so I don't know what the P stands for. We'll call it parcel, like this is a parcel vehicle or something like that. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to pull a horn stuff, pull a steering wheel. There might be some clips or E-clips or something in here to separate the shaft from the column. And then, let me take you below. Alright, so you can see I've got the wheel removed off the front. And I've actually started to try to get the steering gear out of here, hoping it would just fall off, but it didn't. So, so far the only successful thing I've got is the nut off the pitman arm. And I need to separate this, and I went looking for my pickle fork, and danged if I can find it. I went home, looked at it at the house, and I couldn't find it there either. So I went to Harbor Freight and got me a new one with a coupon, $8. I tried to loosen up that bolt, and I used a breaker bar and a cheater bar, and that wasn't happening. So I'm hoping we can pull the gear out without it. There are 3 bolts on the frame, 1 up front, 2 in the back. They had castellated nuts and cotter pins. I pulled the cotter pins. I put an impact on them and they spun, so evidently they're bolts, so I got to hold them on the inside too. Sure, that's just going to be a pain, but they did spin, so that's good. So I think, first of all, I'm going to beat on this thing for a little while and try to get that separated. And I won't video that in case I say something I probably ought not to. And then we'll go after those other 3 bolts, and I'll check in with you when I got something to show you. Alright, well, the bolts came out. They didn't fight me too hard. 1, 2, 3. I had to turn the steering gear all the way to the right to clear one of the bolts, and the pitman arm separated without too much problem. So the steering gear is loose. Now we just got to get inside and get the steering wheel out. See what it's going to take to get that whole column out of there. I think what we'll do is get all the wiring separated, get the steering wheel off, and the collar off. Sorry, I'm not much light. I was looking down at the floor. See if there was room to pull this collar through the floor. I don't think there is, but we might be able to get the whole column out if all of this bulk comes off the top. See, it's got a shifter up there for when it was a 3-speed. So maybe I can get rid of that permanently. And then we'll kind of go from there. If I get all of it out, I can separate the tube from the shaft out of the truck. That might be nice. Maybe I can get a chance to paint that tube while it's out of there. Alright, let me fiddle with that. I'm not really videoing this because, quite honestly, I'm not really into this. It's not much fun. And, I don't know. It's just taking forever. But we're getting there. We're getting there. The idea is we've got to get it out today, if possible, and then get it crated so I can send it. Because it's going to take a while. This is a very odd steering gear. People that are in the business just rebuilding steering gears, they have hesitation about this one. It's because they've probably never done one. So these Stepvans, usually when they hit some age, I guess, they just disappear, get crushed into oblivion. But the few of us that are out there trying to keep these going, that are not putting like some aftermarket suspension under them or something, or modern suspension under them, I guess I should say. There's not very many of us trying to restore these as they were. And I'm not really sure how to go about putting some modern suspension on them when, you know, effectively the wheels are right there. and the steering, goes way out in front. It's out there clear by the bumper, and it comes back. So the geometry is completely off. You'd end up with some sort of steering wheel like a tea bucket or something that would come straight out of the floor. And I don't know how you'd put the geometry together. But anyway, I ramble. Let's try to get that steering column stripped out. See if we can get her out of there. I'll bring you back when I got something fun to show you. Alright, so I got the steering wheel off. Had to kind of modify my puller a little bit. But you got to do stuff like that. I've had this off before, but I kind of goofed my puller up on some other project. So got it all fixed up. Got turn signal switch out. All the wires are going to unplug from under the dash. I'm just going to mark them, at least with a tie wrap or something, so I know which is which, and make sure the colors match. If not, I'll color code everything before I do that. And I got the clamp off, so essentially it's loose. I wish I had one more hand, but I don't. So anyway, the column is loose, but the shaft and the column are not separated. There's a clamp on the outside. I'll show you what I mean here. I'm hoping if I loosen that up that things will occur here. So see that bolt going through that clamp right there? That's the next thing. Looks pretty rusty, but so far everything's been coming loose. So if I get that bolt loose, I'm hoping that the column will slip off the shaft. There was some garbage on the shaft, like an old, probably backup light switch or something. Anyway, I got all that garbage pulled off of there and some tie wraps and whatever. There is a removable piece of the floor, worst case, but those screws that hold those removable pieces of the floor are a nightmare, and I'm sure I'll have to drill them all out, which is a whole nother day's work, as fast as this thing is going today anyway it is. So let me get after that clamp rod there, and with that thing loose, see if that column comes off. If it does, I think I can drop the whole shaft out the bottom. I think. I don't know for sure, but I think. Alright, let me try. I'll be back. Well, I got that clamp off, and I went inside and I tapped up like towards the inside of the cab on the outer column, and hoping to separate it from the shaft. And as soon as it did, and then it just like fell out. That's where it landed. So I'm just about to reach in there and get a hold of it and get her out on the floor. So I will have to say that it literally fell out. Well, after a lot of unbolting and a few interesting moments, but it wasn't all that bad. All right, I gotta have two hands to do this, so I'll do it, and then we'll come back when it's sitting safely on the floor. Then I gotta get that pitman arm off of there, and it is super tight. We'll get the big guns out. Okay, right back. Well, gang, what do you think? That thing got a 5-foot shaft on it. Woo, had to jack this thing way up to get that thing out of there and pull that column way into the inside of the truck. But I didn't have to disconnect the wires yet. I need to, though. And that water right there, yep, that's out of the steering gear. There was a plug that you could get through that access hole right there by that orange screwdriver. And only thing I did with it is fill it full of 90 weight and power punch. It seemed to help it a little bit. Knowing that I was going to have to do something with it, I didn't go beyond that. So here it is out. It's obviously had water in it for 25, 30 years. Certainly the bearings are gone. That's why it's so hard to steer. I'm really hoping that when I get this back, get it back in, that it steers much, much easier. And then of course taking the slop out of the steering. So this is going to cost, I think they're in the $600-700 range to get this done, plus freight both directions. But you know, it's one of those things you gotta do. There's no real options for it, so you gotta suck it up, make it happen. So I'm going to build a crate for this thing. I'll get that pitman arm off. I have to break out the 3/4 inch impact wrench to do that, but it should make short work of that. So with that, we're successful in getting the steering box out of this Boyertown Stepvan. It's a P400 Ford chassis, 1967. Probably a pretty rare steering gear, but I certainly hope that the folks that I sent pictures of this to in Washington can effectively rebuild it and make it new again. Might take a week or two. I get that. I'm good with that. So, gang, thanks for hanging with me in the shop today. Got a little dirty. We took a couple ibuprofen. We're standing on our heads here a little while today, but we got this thing out of there. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate your comments. I'll reply to as many as I can. Please hit the like button. It's just like putting a penny in my piggy bank. It helps my videos get noticed, and we really need that to happen. I appreciate it. We'll catch you guys on the next one.